Do you notice anything different about this video? Yes, you're right. I did take a shower. But also, this is the first video not edited by me. It's actually edited by a friend, Feziboy. Everybody say welcome to Feziboy. I'll make sure to leave his links down in the description below. What's up, geniuses? My name's Adrian Rivera, and welcome back to the channel where you learn to show your genius. Today we're going to be talking about how to make bass lines in FL Studio 20 so you can get something like this. Our goal with today's video is to show you exactly how to find a bass line so that you can keep your bass lines in tune. But before we get into it, I gotta show you guys something. Welcome back to my wall! Guys, we finally did it. We got a silver play button. What? You think it's fake? Guys, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're right. My little brother made this silver play button. It's so cute. If we want to get a real silver play button, make sure you subscribe to help be part of this wall. We're trying to reach 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're actually making an entire series about that. If you want to follow our journey to getting 100,000 subscribers, make sure you click the eye icon up here. That will take you to the playlist where it starts off with the first episode. Episode 2 was last Tuesday. I am going to reach 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. Let me explain. Today, I'm gonna get 100 subscribers. 100 extra subscribers. Did it work out? You gotta check the video to know. Also, make sure to subscribe. We don't want to have this fake silver play button for too long. Alright, so welcome back to FL Studio. So in order to make good bass lines, we gotta figure out how to find the right notes to use for the bass line. I'm gonna mute the bass real quick. I use an 808 from Flex. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mute that, go into our regular Flex right here that has the piano, and then mute the bass line on the piano, because as you can hear, I put the bass line on the piano as well. So I'm gonna mute this up right here, and first things first, I'm gonna show you guys the chords that I used for this song. Nothing too special, nothing too super fancy, but it's enough for this video. This video, like I said, is about bass lines, not about how to make good chord progressions, but I'm gonna show you how to get the bass line, the bass note for any chord. So first things first, what exactly are even chords? Chords are 3 or more notes played next to each other. Not next to each other, but at the same time. You might also call this triads. The first chord that I use in this progression is a C major chord. I bring it up the octave. Dude, what is going on with my nose? Why is it so tingly? The first note, chord, I used in this song is a C major chord. And when it comes to chords and triads, you'll more than likely always come across a major or a minor triad. There will be instances where you have things like augmented and diminished, but for the most part, major and minor is what you're going to be hearing the most. So how exactly do we know that these are major and minor triads? To put it into super simple terms, major sounds happy, minor sounds sad. This is minor, this is major. Now the difference between major and minor musically is that major has a major third. So when we're talking about scales in music theory, the first note that you play in a chord is the root. In order to build on top of that chord, you have to play a third from the root. When building a major chord, that third is going to be major. So, for example, that's a major third, that's a minor third. And then after you build that third, you build another third to a perfect fifth. So you would have the root, the third, and the fifth. That gives you your chord. So for major, root, major third, perfect fifth. For minor, root, minor third, perfect fifth. And the thing is, like I was saying, this is a C major, this is a C minor, but you can have a major chord of any note. So for example, if we go over here, that's an A major chord. And then this is an A minor chord. Another way to remember if it's major or minor is by playing it in an arpeggio. Arpeggio basically just means in a sequence like this, instead of doing it all at once. So if you listen, something that we used to do in choir all the time when I did choir back in high school. We would sing these triads using solfege. So since C, we're starting off on C, do, mi, so, mi, do. And then if it's minor, la, do, mi, do, la. So if it sounds do, mi, so, mi, do, you know that it's major. If it's la, do, mi, do, la, that's minor. So cool. Why does that even matter? When you're making a bass line, you always want to make sure that the bass is the root of the chord. So for example, C major, C is the root. So if we want to make a bass line to that chord, you would play C in the bass. So now if you play it together, you can hear that it has a really good foundation. Any other note wouldn't sound as solid as just having a C. So for example, let's do C sharp. Well, that's completely out of tune. Let's do another note inside the chord. Dude, my nose. So we have an E right here, right? So let's play it with the chord. It works, but like I said, it doesn't sound as solid as that C. And then again, if we try it with a G, it sounds good, but not as solid of a foundation as C. So another thing too, there's something called inversions, and when you're making chord progressions, you might come across this inversion. So as you can tell right here, that is not what you're used to hearing. Like I said, major, minor. So what the heck is that? Well, this is actually an inversion. How do we know that? Because this top note actually, surprisingly, is the root of the chord. So if we play this in succession, this note right here, this A, is actually the root, because if we put that A down here, you can hear it's an A minor chord. La, do, mi, do, la, right? So what inversions are basically is taking one of the notes from the chord and playing it somewhere else than where it's supposed to be, in simple terms. So this A was actually played up here above the C and the E. So it comes out, you get that different sound. And for a lot of people, when you have those inversions, you might think that the C, since it's at the bottom, is the root note. So you might end up making a bass line with C. Yes, that sounds good, but since this is an inversion and the actual chord is an A minor chord, having the root note on an A or the bass line on an A is going to make it sound a lot more solid than having it on a C. So for example, let me play that for you real quick. That sounds more solid and stable than having that C as the bass line. Dude, what is going on? So we have the C right here, the C major chord. So that means that we want to make the bass line C. Next one is an inverted A minor chord. So what does that mean? We want to have the bass line A. So that sounds good, right? Now, let's say when you're making your chords, you do something like a seventh. Now, since you can hear we have that seventh note, what would be the bass line then? So when building a seventh chord, the seventh is above the regular triad that we have. So if you're hearing the C7, C major 7, we have a C major chord, and we just added a 7th to it. And since we know that to build a bass line from a triad, the root note will always be the bass, that means that we just need to use the triad part of the C major 7th chord. And when we use that triad part, we get that good bass line. So now that we know how to find the root note and using the root note as the bass, we can make a pretty cool bass line. So down here, you can see that since this is a C major chord, we use the C as the root note. This is an A minor chord. We used A as the root note. Which one's this one? This one's an E minor chord, so we used E as the root note. And then this last one is an F major chord. So we used F as the root note. And when you make these bass lines, make sure you have fun with it. So real quick, what I'm going to do, I'm just gonna copy and paste this so we can move this out of the way, but still have it here. And I'm gonna redo what we're doing here. All right, so we have C in the bass line. After that, we put it into E. I mean A. That's an A. So we're gonna put A in the bass line. After that, we go to E, and then after that, we go to F. So together, it should sound like this. Super simple bass line, right? Now, obviously, you might want to spice this up a little bit because having just a simple single note bass line, I mean, it's good, but if you want to make something really interesting, you got to add a little bit of flair. So in order to do that, we're going to chop this up a little bit, maybe like that. You can see how it sounds. You know, and it's really simple, but obviously having more divided parts in your bass line might make it sound a little more interesting. So I'm just gonna go ahead, chop a little bit of this up. Oops, did not mean to do that. And it's probably gonna be just the same all around with every single note, the same spacing, the same slicing. I swear there's like a hair here or something. There's gotta be something tickling my nose. And that sounds pretty decent, but you can see that in the original bass line that I did for this tutorial, there's something called, I think, passing notes. Don't quote me on that, I'm not a music theory expert. But basically, these notes in between each other root note kind of leads the bass line into the next note nicely. So in order to do that, you gotta make sure that the notes are in key, obviously. We talked about that in my last tutorial about melodies, so if you want to click that tutorial, or I mean check out that tutorial, click the icon up here, it'll take you to that video. It was a good video, a fun one. But anyway, we're using notes and making sure that it's in the same key as this one, which is basically just C major. Now let's say we wanted to spice it up a little bit with some chords, chopping up the chords a little bit too, so that the chords aren't so boring. I don't know how this is gonna sound like. I'm honestly just having fun at this point. Let's see how that's gonna sound. That sounds bad. Okay, we're not gonna do that. So yeah, guys, that's basically all for making a really good bass line. Obviously, you can add more to this. You can actually, hold up, before we stop right now, I want to show you something real cool. So you can, one thing that I do with my 808s a lot is that you can actually kind of get some notes and bring them up the octave. It'll still be in the same bass line, but it's just a little other way to make your basses sound interesting. This is something I do with my 808 sometimes. Let me show you what I mean. I hope this is gonna sound good. I think it will though. It's basically just taking the bass note, putting it up the octave, and yeah. It sounds cooler with 808s, but you get the point. Just another way to spice it up. Now we're done with the tutorial. So I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope this helps out with your bass lines. Sorry if you guys don't know any music theory and you're kind of a little lost. If you want me to make some videos about music theory, make sure you say in the comments, yes, let's see those music theory videos. If you want to check out some of my super high quality beats, go to adrianrivera.com. I post super good beats, better than this one that I made right here. I don't post anything that I wouldn't use myself. So check it out, adrianrivera.com. Also, we need a silver play button, so make sure you subscribe. We're trying to reach 100K by the end of the year, and I have a series all about the road to 100,000 subscribers. So if you want to see that series, click the icon up here. It's really fun. Next episode is coming out next Tuesday. In last week's episode, we tried to reach 100 subscribers in a day. Did we do it? You're gonna have to watch this to find out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure you stay safe out there because it's a crazy world right now. But most importantly, don't be afraid to show your genius.